Hi, I'm Alex Archbold, and I've been buying and selling antiques since I was 9 years old. From basements to scrapyards, I'll look just about anywhere I can to find lost antiques and collectibles. And sometimes I'll go big and buy everything. I never know what's going to happen or who I'm going to meet. This is our life, this is our adventure, and this is Curiosity Inc.
I'm home, honey.
Good morning, everyone, and welcome to today's episode. Well, I am not at my shop today. As you know, I'm transitioning to go to more of an online route, but I am going to visit with a friend of mine who does have a wonderful store here in town. Her name's Angela, Swish Vintage. And if you recall, when we did our clear out series of Madame Rack's house and we had some beautiful clothing there, near the tail end, some of the last bits of clothing we had went to Angela. She did some wonderful artistic things to get it all put back together. So I thought, let's go visit a friend this morning and see what's going on. So off we go to Swish Vintage to do a little store tour. Follow along. Angela's shop is located on 124th Street in Edmonton, Alberta. And the nice thing about her is that sometimes when I'm in somebody's house and I'm finding things like old vintage clothing, it might not be something I would deal with myself, but it's great to have contacts and resources in this business. In fact, I rely on it. And she's been a wonderful resource for me when it comes to finding new homes for vintage clothing. Okay, let's see if we can find Angela. Angela, are you here?
Hi.
There you are.
Hi.
And you're not alone. You've got Natasha with you today too.
Hi.
Your cohort, your partner in the, well, she does, you guys do a lot of really great Instagram videos. I've noticed that already. What is your Instagram handle, by the way?
At Swishy Girl.
At Swishy Girl, okay.
Yeah.
So I guess you've got this lovely, beautiful store here, and you moved your locations not that long ago, right?
Yes, we moved in September of 2020. I used to be downtown in Manulife, and then COVID hit and downtown kind of emptied out. So this was the perfect transition neighborhood.
It's a great area. It truly is.
Yeah, we live on 124th Street.
You did tell me once, though, the reason why you named your store Swish. So why don't you tell us?
Oh, yes. So my grandmother was part of the Wild Rose Antique Society, and she was a real character, about this tall and red snakeskin cowboy boots. And I come by the vintage world.
You come by it honestly, naturally.
Yes. So she used to say, oh, isn't she so swish, or isn't he so swish? And it has a British origin, and it means, you know, kind of a dandy. It's just about
like
fashion and like, wow, you're so swish. So that's
okay, that's where it comes from. Yeah. Inspired by your grandma. I'm having this image of the red cowboy boots and stuff, and so she was probably a pretty wild lady to hang around too.
We used to say to her, we'd say, Grandma, you know, you're 85, you shouldn't be wearing those red cowboy boots on the ice. And she'd say, better to look good falling down.
Oh, isn't that funny?
Yeah.
Well, I am so glad that you guys invited me over to come and have a look at the store today. You're both really into vintage though, aren't you? Correct, yeah. And so I guess it'd be hard to work in this business and not be, to have the passion for it. But I love how you've got stuff laid out in the shop. I'm just going to kind of pan around here. Sure. You've got, I've noticed that you've done color stories. So you've got sort of the greens and blacks. And do you change up the colors based on what the season is too?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, so this a week ago was a bit more Eastery maybe, or yeah, I suppose Easter hasn't even come yet. But yeah, we change it. It's hard to merchandise in other ways. It gets too confusing.
Right.
With the different eras. So colorways work the best.
And you do sell vintage jewelry as well?
Yeah. This is a special
like
pieces. Some designer
stuff.
And
okay, yeah, I see a Chanel box down there. And, you know, some nice. Is that amber?
Yes.
Lovely stuff. And of course, if we look at the side, you've got some inspiration photos of, you know, folks over the years. Old photographs are wonderful, especially when you've got them tacked on. Is that like a metal and then you've got them with magnets?
Yeah, that was built into the store already.
Okay.
So it's funny because people get a bit oddly emotional when they see these photos and they think, oh, that's so sad. How come nobody has kept those? But if in one generation or two generations, if you don't know who the people are, why would you keep them?
Yeah, and for you get to enjoy that image. Lots of people collect photographs, but I've kind of looking around the store. There's so many photographable, Instagrammable opportunities in your shop too, because the way you've got it laid out. From the beautiful little purses and bags, and your sense of decor is so nice. Who does the decorating around here?
We both do.
You both do? Okay.
Yeah, we both do. Although recently this is a lot of Natasha. Yeah.
Okay.
She's worked with me for a long time. So
yeah, I can sense some visual merchandising skills here. And that's one thing that I really love about this business is when you either set up at a show or set up your shop, that you can really set some really cool designs and just draw people in with these great displays. And I can see that you've kind of got your stuff organized by color and by size. Is that correct?
absolutely.
Okay, so if you're feeling like you're in a beige kind of mood, you can go in this area and find your size or dresses. I guess I have to ask you, what's your most favorite current piece that you have in the store?
Oh, I would say, this we got just recently.
Okay, I'm going to walk over and see what this is. This looks like a cape.
It is a cape, and this is Yves Saint Laurent. This is probably 70s.
Okay.
And it's wool and cashmere. And one of our clients just brought it in, and we don't normally take coats or woolen things at this time of the year, but how could you say no?
That
just so
looks like it would
amazing.
suit you.
I tried it on, and we're both admitted coataholics. I think in the vintage world, there's so many beautiful coats, and the construction of them is amazing. And you have to have coats in Alberta for -5, -20, -30.
Almost all year round.
Yes. So I if it doesn't sell, that's my problem. Then I take it home.
Oh yeah, I have that too. But for me, it's like little toy cars and sometimes big cars, which becomes an issue. But I see you've got all sorts of great designer stuff and a few little quirky items around here. What inspires you? Like, what do you look for in vintage clothing? What sort of things draw you to it, or would you look for if somebody's bringing old or vintage clothes to the store? What's the key?
The one of the issues with Alberta and Edmonton is that we're very limited in some respects because the population is, the city's only so old. And so we do tend to get a lot of similar vintage pieces. So we look for things that are different and really unusual, and they also have to they have to reflect a current sensibility as in fashion. Some of the 80s pieces are just so over the top and not really wearable, so it's tough to, we love that Gucci did a whole 70s inspired collection, and so mixing florals and daisy and wide legs and the velvet pantsuits, and so that brought all the 70s things to the forefront again. And
but you're saying shoulder pads haven't made a comeback?
They have, but there's a certain I think there's a conservative mother of the bride kind of a polyester that I don't know that that's ever going to come back. The shoulder pads are really popular, and it's how you style it. So I, of course, lived through the 80s, and I would have had some back combing going on and too much makeup. And
do you have any pictures you could send me that you're willing to share?
Maybe. But nowadays you could wear one of those 80s dresses with big shoulder pads, and you could wear it with some really cool platform sneakers, and you're going to have different hair and different makeup, so then it looks contemporary.
Right.
Yeah, you don't want to look like it's costumey, that she's wearing a whatever 1950s, 1960s, 1970s. You want it to look like they just stepped out of a modern magazine.
And so how often do people come in and they don't know what they're looking for, and you guys have to help guide them to the right sort of outfit?
Often.
All the time?
Often.
So you must be experts at that. So any outfit suggestions that people are looking for right now, like any top picks or?
I would say the most frustrating top pick right now is everybody wants to have a flapper party, 1920s flapper party, and real flapper dresses, you cannot come by them. And if you were to find an actual flapper dress, you know, in good condition, it would be $1,000, which is not really something for a party. And I think they have to sort of think out of the box. And, you know, 1920s showed Chanel's first knitwear collection, and the 20s was also obsessed with chinoiserie, which is anything exotic, you know, from the Orient. So you could just throw on a kimono and some wide leg pants and long beads, and you would be so 20s. But everybody thinks that it's only flapper, that you have to have that flapper thing.
But truly very few people would have been able to afford a dress like that back then.
Exactly, that's a very good point.
20s and 30s, especially in Alberta, it would have been mostly farmers and you know, working class folks that, you know, you're not going to go out. Mind you, I like looking through old like Eaton's or Sears catalogs and seeing what the fashions were, because it gives you a sense of it. But do you ever rent clothing out to people? Like, have you ever had people come and...
We have a few photographers that we work with and stylists that we will lend clothes to, but we have to have an established relationship with them. You know, if somebody just off the street said, oh, I'm doing a photo shoot. No, I mean, we have suffered, or the clothing has suffered lots of damages when people are not treating it respectfully. Or
okay.
So if we know the person, you know, we work with Avenue Magazine, well, Edify now, and a girl named Emily that does beautiful photography, and we do work with lots of people who have borrowed our stuff and brought it back.
So while we're here, we're surrounded by all this stuff, and I'm sure people at home are going, you know, this is all wonderful, but let's see some of the clothing. So do you have a few samples of some of your favorite pieces that are in the store right now?
Sure.
I mean, we saw the jacket, that is, or the cape, I should say, but let's see if we can find some really cool pieces to look at.
So this piece has some damage to it, unfortunately. It's the weight of it, and it's the age, and the fact that it's silk with metallic threads.
Right.
But
holy cow, that's got a lot of detail to it.
So for anybody who is watching this, they don't get the sense of how heavy it is. This weighs about 25 pounds.
25 pounds.
So this is 1960s and would have been couture. Somebody would have worn this, you know, to the Oscars or something.
Right.
So it's got this gorgeous dress, you know, the metal side zip. So this would have been late 50s, early 60s. No, 60s. And this has, you know, the silk lining, but this is all metallic threads.
Look at all the details and the beads and jewel work on that.
But somebody wouldn't wear this nowadays, probably the two pieces together. They could wear this coat with a pair of jeans, you know, and a t-shirt, like a rock t-shirt. Then you can kind of channel Balmain, the designer Balmain is doing all these sparkly things. So anyways, I love
very like Audrey Hepburn at the Oscars, 1964.
Oh, absolutely.
You know, you got the hair.
These are some of our beautiful kimonos. I'll show you. So here is a gorgeous kimono, and we do have a lot of call for these pieces. So this is the family crest, or it's sort of a crest that identifies who made the kimono, I believe. So these are silk and silk lined. And a friend of mine went to Kyoto many, many years ago, and she brought us back a whole bunch of kimonos. And, you know, in Japan, some of the younger people are not so much into them because they've seen, you know, thousands, tens of thousands of them. But these really translate well in our...
and so in what circumstance would somebody wear that nowadays? Well,
I would shorten it.
Okay.
So that I wear them all the time. So you would shorten it to maybe this length.
Okay.
And then just wear it kind of as a coat.
Okay.
Or you could wear it to the opera or the ballet, or...
I feel like you live a fancier life than me. You know, when you're going to the opera or the ballet, you wear your kimono or your
ballet
Balmain.
This weekend, the David Bowie one. So I'm so excited. Maybe I'll wear my kimono. But you could just wear it, you know, around the house, having your breakfast.
You always struck me as less of a ballet and more of a punk rock gal when you were younger.
Well, that's why I'm going to the David Bowie ballet.
Oh, I
It's
see.
not
Okay.
the regular ballet. It's not Swan Lake. It's going to be David Bowie.
But did you have the jean jacket with the patches all over it and all that back?
I had the pins of Lou Reed and David Bowie and Stiff Little Fingers and, you know, of course, Sex Pistols and everything like that. Yeah.
And so now it's transitioned into, I'm mature, I'm a business owner. Let's keep that joy and go see it in ballet form with your kimono.
Yes.
Well, see, there's a great wearing pairing right there.
That's right. That's right. I'm really excited.
Well, we should get one of Natasha's pics. You've been hanging back over there, but why don't you find something you think is really cool?
I'm going to show this one. So this is an example of one of the 80s pieces Angela was talking about earlier.
Shoulder pads.
And it has a skirt. I love this piece because I really love pink. So it's got the kind of 80s length skirt. So you might wear these two pieces together if you want, and then you would style it more. You know, we did a lot of like Emily in Paris kind of styling. I'm not sure if you've seen that.
Yeah, it's a Netflix show, I think, right?
So this is like something she would wear, but she would wear it with like knee-high like velvet boots and like kind of like a slick hair and more subdued kind of makeup so it wouldn't look 80s. Or you wear it separately and you wear this with like a pair of jeans or something. So it is more contemporary. Anyways, I love this piece. This one's my favorite. It's
kind of, although it's 80s, it does have a little bit of that throwback sort of material to it, doesn't it? Like you could have seen that
like
sort of
Chanel kind of.
Yeah, like 60s, 70s Chanel kind of. That's not houndstooth. What would you? Is it houndstooth? Okay.
Yeah.
Oh wow, there is a throwback to. But
it never goes out of style. Yeah.
Wow, so that's a cool piece. So what's another one that you really like? Or it's so hard. You've got so many. I mean, they're all. Clothing is subjective like art. So
I'm going to show this one. So this one is pretty special because Angela brought this back from Florence. This is silk, of course. But again, this is also 80s, which is interesting because 80s isn't my favorite era. And I'm showing two 80s pieces. But this is like an 80s does kind of 40s look. So 40s was really known for big shoulder pads and like a nipped in waist.
Double-breasted sort of buttons.
So this is, you know, a lot of eras borrow from other eras or do a throwback. Like currently right now, we're doing a throwback to 90s, but also 70s.
I've noticed that with the 90s. My daughter is wearing like the wide leg jeans and she's got like the, you know, the striped keyhole zipper. I'm like, what is going on? She looks like she's right from 90s. But in the 90s, the 70s was in.
Yes.
And so she kind of looks like she's from the 70s channeling the 90s, you know.
Yeah, exactly.
Just waiting for the dark eyeshadow or the eyeliner and the, you know, that whole thing to kick in. But maybe down the road. So, well, that is a cool piece. And it's funny how you say that things are retro because they're always retro, but you guys sell current. You can make vintage clothes look so current and so cool.
Yeah, exactly.
So you guys you're not, you're selling history, you're selling fashion, and really just making people feel great about what they wear.
Absolutely. I mean, the average customer that we get in here, you know, we do have exceptionally a few people who are really devoted to one era and they'll dress head to toe 1940s or head to toe 1950s. That's not very common though here. So what we get is we get a lot of professional women, we get women of you know, every kind of age group, and they'll have a classic, you know, beautiful vintage 1950s cashmere sweater that they're wearing in their contemporary wardrobe. And that's usually the kind of customers that we work with. So they're seeing something that's vintage that's like, wow, a one of a kind, and they're just adding it to their already existing wardrobe. I mean, as we've talked about this before, vintage clothing is probably 100 times better quality than current clothing.
Yeah, it really stands up. I mean, are you guys wearing vintage right now is the question.
I am not a devoted vintage wearer, but I'm a devoted secondhand wearer. So I bought this, this is a Japanese designer, Kenzo, and I bought this in a consignment store in Victoria. So I always buy, or 99% of the time I buy secondhand. I am wearing an antique cameo. That's
let's have a look.
Yeah, this came from somebody who served in the Marines and was stationed in Napoli in the 50s. And he bought this, of course, Italy is known for their cameos. He bought this for his mother. And he had no children and was an only child. And when his mom passed away, he sold some of his items to me. So I still have the little velvet box that it came in, and it says, "Merry Christmas, Mom, love."
Oh,
And it was 1956 or 57, and it's from Napoli.
but isn't it so
I
sweet
love
that
it.
you know the whole
Yeah.
story of it too?
I love it.
And it is the story. So, you know, when you're out finding things, it's great to get the story. And also when you're looking at secondhand places and secondhand shops, you guys both must know your labels really, really well. You know, or even if it's missing the label, to know the material or the stitching to be able to tell.
Yeah, I mean, we try and encourage people to not be obsessed with the labels, because labels, some people will say, oh, where's your designer rack? But we like all things, and oftentimes a home sewer in the 50s would use exquisite fabric and do French seams and things by hand, which would be a couture level. But we just don't have home sewers who are sewing like that anymore, right?
Well, maybe we'll start a new trend after this.
I think COVID has made people more aware, and they're starting to sew more. We have a customer who now makes her own lingerie and is sewing all kinds of amazing things. And
Well, very, very cool.
oh, and
Oh, yes. You got them all cleaned up and ready to go?
so these just went through the wash, and we were gifted these from,
For me, yes.
and we just love these, and we think that these deserve to be sitting at a pool in Palm Springs or something at a mid-century house with a cocktail, maybe. You know, you just need a gin and tonic and a pair of cat eye sunglasses and some kind of bouffant or I love these.
It's funny because I like them because they were Pucci-esque in my mind. Like they had that kind of, I love the really bold 60s artsy kind of colors and patterns.
Yeah.
And I was there and I was buying like, I don't know, toys or a typewriter or something random. And those were sitting in the corner of the closet. And I'm like, I know who could use those.
That
You
was
guys could.
Wonderful. That was a nice surprise, because we don't often get bathing suits. They don't usually stand up very well, or they've all crumbled, but these are both in really, really nice condition. So
Yeah, that's what I had heard, that vintage bathing suits are a little challenging to come across.
Yeah.
So when I saw them, I thought of you guys, and I'm always happy to do that, you know, if I'm coming across stuff that might work for the shop. It's a beautiful store. And if somebody wants to check out your inventory, if they want to follow you, because you're going to be starting a YouTube channel.
we have a YouTube channel now. Do we know the name of the YouTube channel?
That's a good thing to know.
Oh my God.
We figured it would be easier just to show you on their phone. So if you go to YouTube and you look up Swish Vintage Finds for your sassy self, now that's a handle. You can
Swish
find the channel.
Vintage.
Yeah, look for Swish Vintage. If
Finds for your,
you'll find all sorts of, they're just getting started. So I hope that you get lots of subscribers and have much success sharing your wonderful knowledge and passion of clothing with the whole world. So thank you, ladies, very much for having me over today.
Oh, thank you
Thank
for
you.
coming. Yeah, you've been a great neighbor and a good vintage friend and everything. So we look forward to continued success for both of us.
Yes, well, it's been absolutely lovely. Thanks again. Well, it was a joy, as always, to see Angela and to see Natasha. If you're ever in the 124th Street area of Edmonton, you got to check them out. You can also find them online, on Instagram, and of course now on YouTube. So I wish them nothing but success, and I'm sure I'll be doing lots more business with them as I find vintage clothes and have a great place to bring them. Have a wonderful day, guys. We'll see y'all soon, and bye for now.